Hey everyone, my name is Xing Hao. I'm going to be doing the introduction of the object-oriented databases and PostgreSQL. At the first beginning, I'm going to introduce the OOP. The OOP stands for the Object-Oriented Programming. The OOP is a computer programming model that organizes software design around data or objects rather than functions and logic. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the structures and principles of the OOP. So you can take a look at the structures down below here. There are 4 parts consist of the structures of the OOP. The first one is classes. Classes are user-defined data types that are just like the blueprint for individual objects, attributes, and methods. The objects are instances of a class created with the specific defined data. Objects can correspond to real-world objects or an abstract entity. The methods are functions that are defined inside a class that describe the behaviors of an object. The attributes are defined in the class template and represent the state of an object. And here also are 4 parts of the principles of the OOP. The first one is encapsulation. So this principle states that all important information is contained inside of an object and only select information is exposed. The implementation and state of each object are privately held inside of the defined class. Other objects do not have access to this class or authority to make changes. They are only able to call a list of public functions or methods. The second one is the abstraction. Objects only reveal internal mechanisms that are relevant for the use of other objects, hiding any unnecessary implementation code. The next one is inheritance. So the classes can reuse code from other classes. Relationships and subclasses between objects can be assigned, enabling developers to reuse common logic while still maintaining a unique hierarchy. The last one is the polymorphism. The definition of the polymorphism is objects are designed to share behaviors and they can take on more than one form. So what's the object-oriented database? The object-oriented database, also known as OOD, is database systems that can work with the complex data objects. So in the object-oriented programming, everything is an object. And many objects are quite complex, having different properties and methods. A OOD management system works in concert with an object-oriented programming language to facilitate the storage and retrieval of object-oriented data. So right now I'm going to do a very simple comparison between the relational databases and object-oriented databases. The relational databases management systems, also known as RDBMS, work with tables, with each row in the table representing a record. The column in a row represent the attributes of an individual record. Association between records are facilitated with foreign keys in one table referencing IDs in another table. For example, a company has many employees. An employee belongs to a company. These associations make up the relational part of the relational databases. The data values stored in the relational databases are atomic and primitive. By primitive, it means that they are types like characters, text strings, numbers, and hashes. Even though MySQL and SQLite support the JSON data types, JSON data type stands for the JavaScript object notation. But that's not the same as supporting objects in the sense that OODs do. And contrast this relational databases with the OOD, which typically stores and manages objects directly on the database server's disk. There are no tables, no rows, no columns, no foreign keys. There are only objects. Associations between the objects in an OOD can also be established and persist, which can lead to a powerful and fast querying of the data across the complex relationships. Right now I'm going to discuss some of the advantages of the object-oriented database. The object databases bring permanent persistent to objects. The objects can be stored in persistent storage forever. And the most significant advantage of the OOD over RDBMS is the ability to query across these complex relationships very quickly. And also, I want to bring up the downsides of the OOD. Disadvantages of the object-oriented databases. Each flavor of OOD is coupled tightly to an object-oriented programming language. And querying syntax is very language dependent. The relative performance of a very simple database operations, the ones you might do for a simple lookup of an attribute from a relational database table, may be suboptimal. Object databases are not as popular as RDBMS. It's difficult to find object database developers. Not many programming languages support object databases. PostgreSQL. The Postgres is an object relational database management system, also known as the ORDBMS, which means it's different than database management systems such as MySQL. And ORDBMS combines features from both relational database management systems and object-oriented programming. So you might be wondering, what's the difference between the PostgreSQL and MySQL? So in terms of the data type, so there actually are some of the other differences like the architecture, data types, and the performance. So the first one I'm going to discuss with the I'm going to go with the data type. The Postgres offers a wider variety of data types than MySQL. If your application deals with any of the unique data types it has available or unstructured data, PostgreSQL may be a better pick. If you're using only basic character and numeric data types, I think both databases will suit you. The PostgreSQL supports all regular SQL data types, but also adds a variety of types that are not supported by typical SQL RDBMS. For example, the Postgres can support both JSON, XML data types. It can also support types such as an array, composite, or range. The PostgreSQL can even support network address data types. These data types are not necessarily ACID compliant, as they are not atomic, but allow a wider range of flexibility while coding. And which one is better? So the PostgreSQL versus MySQL. If If you're developing an application with a database backend, let's say which of the two should you use? Consider the PostgreSQL for any application that might grow to enterprise scope, with the complex queries and frequent write operations. If you're new to the world of databases, then don't expect your application to scale up, or you're looking for a quick tool, then consider MySQL. And that's it. Thank you very much.